What I'm going to be talking about today is called the anatomy of fear. Fear is one of the most potent tools in the world. It is one tool that has been used to destroy, has been used to control, and has been used to actually train and manipulate people. The fear of violence, for example, is what would make a lot of people not step out if there's a protest because they're afraid. A whole nation can be kept in bondage because of fear. And beyond that, you can keep yourself in bondage because of fear. And a lot of time, people tend to think fear is that acute, very serious feeling of choking. And, it's not necessarily like that. Sometimes fear is just that thing that tells you that maybe you're not enough. Maybe you need something else that you don't have. Maybe you're, if you tried and you're going to fail and people will make fun of you. Or maybe, you don't have the resource. They're not acute things that we remember a lot of time. They are those little things. And we've built fear into our daily existence so much that we cannot differentiate it from the normal course of our life. There are people that live so much in fear that every time they want to take a step, they second guess because they don't, what if it doesn't work out right? What if it doesn't do this? What if it doesn't do that? I used to be that kind of person until somebody had told me one, and I don't know why I absolutely believed it, and said that if you can live your life as if everything you do will succeed, the chances that you are going to succeed. You're right. So from that moment, it was one of my lecturers in school. From that moment, I'd made up my mind, everything I do, I would assume I'm going to succeed. I go with that intention, I'm going to succeed. And I won't say that I've succeeded in everything. I'm not even in the classical sense of it, what you call a success. But what it does is it liberates you from having fear to dominate your life. This is it. Let's just analyze what fear is a lot of time. Fear is not the emotion you feel. And that is what we tend to define what fear is. Fear is actually a cognitive kind of entity. What it means by cognitive is a logical thing. Let me put it this way. All of us were born blind. If you see a very small child, if the child is seated and a snake is coming in the person's direction, even if it's a poisonous snake, a small child will probably just crawl towards that particular snake and try to touch it. The same thing with fire, the same thing with everything in life, the same thing with, just mention it. So this is the point. When the child is born, when we were born, there was no concept of fear in that sense. Every fear we have today, we learned it by experience. But this is the thing, it's not just by negative experience. Experience can be what we've accepted, because let me digress a bit to explain how the brain works. The brain does not understand sometimes the reality in the physicality of reality sometimes. What I mean is this: if this thing is a pen and I see it, every pen that I write, if I use this pen to eat myself and then it pains me, every time somebody is bringing pen, I can feel that I can feel the pain. Then fear comes because the person is bringing the pen towards me. But if the feeling is also in your imagination, the same feeling you have when somebody is bringing the pen is also nearly the same feeling you're going to have if you're just thinking about it. We've seen people that were frozen on a path because they thought crossed their mind. That is the nature of the brain. So sometimes the fear that we build, the fear that we learn, is not because we've experienced hurt, is not because we experienced pain in that sector. It's because they've told us that you should be afraid of this. What are some of those things that they've told us? They've told us to keep our heads low, don't speak up. They've told us that they don't, your parents will send you to school. They've told us that failing or missing out on some of the marks is bad. So when they do that, we've imbibed, we've built that into our DNA. So we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to stand up because we think that when we stand out and we fail, it becomes known. We are afraid for different reasons. And all of us are afraid. But fear is not that feeling. It is the thought. It is that conscious analysis of scenario and conclusion on the implication of what would happen. And then once we conclude, we now know I am afraid, and then we start exhibiting the feeling, the emotion, the attitude that comes with being afraid, with fear. And it could be so bad that there are people that, because of fear, though this one is a bit more pathologic, they refuse. There's a story of a billionaire that, because of the fear of germ, there are different kinds of stuff when you get phobia. So we can define in clinical sense fear of spider, fear of water, aquaphobia, fear of germs, fear of this one. But do you know that the most important, some of the major fears that we have is fear of failure, right? And we tend to think, and we look at it, what if I fail? It becomes a defining force in our life that we don't do anything. You don't stand up and say, I want to volunteer for this. You don't stand up to say, I know this thing, can I say it? You don't venture because you don't want to fail, because you look at the implication, and then it defines the way you want to live your life. So remember, first of all, fear is a cognitive process. You thought about it based on your past experience. You concluded the implication of maybe failure, implication of that thing. And then because you've concluded that is quote and unquote dangerous to you, you now developed the emotion that you have. Your fear is what will drive you to become paralyzed, to face the direction of obscurity. We face it whether by omission or commission. What I mean by direction of obscurity is because you have this idea of what you want to do with your life. You have this idea, beautiful idea of what you think can change the world, but you decide, because you have thought about it, that fear factor is coming, then you decide not to do it. You will rather go take something that keeps you above the radar, reduces quote and unquote your chance of failure, and then you live a mediocre life all throughout your life. That is the problem. That is the challenge with fear. And you've understood from the anatomy of fear that fear is first of all here before it becomes your feeling, before it defines the action you are going to take. So how do we begin to deal with the concept of fear? Number one, you need to accept that you are afraid. Most people deny that you're afraid. If I tell a lot of you listening to me today and I ask you that, why are you not doing the business you want to do? Why have you not stepped out to do the story you wanted to write? Why have you not called this person? Why have you not done that? And I say, is it because you're afraid? 99% of people will tell me, I am not afraid. No, that's not the reason. I just have not time. What happens is they've not accepted that fear is a factor that stopped them. This is how you know that fear is a factor. Anything you want to do, you've always thought you wanted to do, and you've not done in a long time. Let me ask you, if you could not fail, if you absolutely knew that you would not fail, if you can guarantee your success, would you have done it or not? You most likely would have done it. It is the fear of failure that has kept you in that bound, that's kept you in that chain. Number two, I'm telling you, how do we deal with fear? To accept that we're afraid, to tell yourself that I am afraid. Number two is to logically describe, if I'm afraid, what am I feeling? Is it my heart rate? Is it like a feeling of constriction around my throat? Is it this and that? You ask, what am I feeling? That's the second thing. What you must be able to articulate it. In articulating it, what it helps you is to understand the way you are feeling, to clarify what you are feeling, and then you can take another. Number three is to say, what action do I need? That's number three question. What action do I need to take? Now you understand that you accepted you are free, you accepted what you're feeling, and I said, what action am I supposed to take? What action do I need to take part time? Once you do that, and then what is the smallest place I can start with this action? That is the number four element. The last one is to be open about your fear. Do you know that one of the ways to overcome speaking fright, or stage fright rather, is when you get on stage, you would acknowledge, hey guys, I am afraid. And then you tell them, I'm afraid, that is why my hand is shaking. If you can master that, for those of you who have always wanted, or who's always dreamt of public speaking. You can accept why you're afraid. You can describe what you're feeling. You can you can say, this is what I would do, and then you can share with people, I am afraid. This is what you realize. Once you can share with who they are afraid, you've reduced your level of fear by more than 50%. And in fact, sometimes done at 60, 70%. Because you will also realize that everybody has that experience. Everybody will go through that experience, and then the people that end up on the other side of that tunnel are those who understand that fear is just what it is a cognitive conclusion that comes from my experience, not necessarily the reality of what is going to happen. You know, what I mean is this: if you're flying, and I've used this example before, and there's significant turbulence, right? There's significant turbulence. Now, the reason why you're afraid is because you think that the plane is going to crash and you're going to die. If you can guarantee that you're not going to die, if you are sure that maybe God has told you, or maybe you know that the plane is in a simulated cabin, you know that obviously the plane cannot crash, you will not be afraid. So what has happened is the conclusion of your mind to say, look, I'm going to die. And that is why the emotion comes in. That is why you feel the way you feel. So take it like that. Understand that is your conclusion. Be open about it. Share your experience. Discuss with people. Tell people, this, I'm afraid. Once you do that, a lot of people will warm up to you. Your comment will come in your direction, and then you can build yourself. I hope that you will take this point, and then you implement them. You take those action plan, those steps, and then I hope it reduces your fear, and I hope it pushes you to do the things you've always wanted to do, and I hope you get results. And if you get those results, we would be glad to actually have a share of the story. So just drop your comment on how you've dealt with fear. And then if you're listening to me today and you are not subscribed across any of our channel, I'd like you to click on the link somewhere in the video and follow us across our platform. You will encourage us to do more of what we're doing. Thank you.